Almost everyone agrees that a fair and open internet is good for both consumers and for business. The idea of network neutrality is one where we involve the government and legislation as well as regulation. But net neutrality outside of technology circles can sound a whole lot like jargon. So today we'll define what net neutrality is and why it matters. For Tech Republic and ZDNet, I'm Dan Patterson with Jason Heiner. And Jason, it sounds like 101, but what is network neutrality?
Yeah, it really is this idea that if the internet, which has always been free and open, which has allowed any content players from the biggest sites on the internet to the smallest blog or $10 a month site that somebody puts up, get the same access to all of the consumers of the internet. That has been what's allowed it to succeed. It's what's allowed a lot of different flowers to bloom. Businesses as small as Facebook and Google when they first started to become the internet giants they are today. And so the general idea is if we don't make sure that this continues, that this principle of openness continues, that the companies that now control a lot of it, the telecoms who control your connection to the internet, whether you're a business or a consumer, that if they can start picking winners and making Netflix faster than Amazon Video or making Google Docs faster than Office 365 because those companies pay the ISPs a little more, or maybe the ISPs, which a lot of them are in the content business of their own, right? If they start giving preference to some of their own content or the content that they own, that their companies own, the sister sites and brands that their companies own, that all of a sudden they're starting to pick winners and losers, and consumers will lose out, especially the ones who can't afford to pay to have the highest tiered internet, the fastest internet, or the one that maybe they get at a lower price, and then the company that they're buying it from, the telecom, offers them some sweet deals in exchange for taking kind of a lower tiered version. So that's the core of it. It's that that's a slippery slope that we don't want to go down. And so net neutrality is the idea of legislating, regulating a free and open internet so that there are no fast lanes, that there are no special access for some companies that can afford to get precedence.
So there has been this argument that, well, it's pro-business and less regulation is good, but you said that this might allow the government to kind of by default pick winners and losers, or at least allow big companies to pick winners and losers. What does that mean?
Yes, so obviously the companies that can pay to do this, we know that there are companies that would like to have their services be delivered faster than some of their competitors, especially if they are the incumbent in a market and they have upstarts that want to compete with them and take their crown, whether it's Microsoft versus Google or Netflix versus Amazon Video, like we talked about, or whomever. If you have more resources and you are the bigger player, then sometimes you can get special access so that somebody who's potentially developed a better product doesn't allow the consumers to decide on equal footing which one is better. And that's what people are worried about, and that's why you have had a lot of Silicon Valley companies pushing for this because they want that open playing field so that the best products in their view and the best services can win, not the best relationships with telecom providers.
So there is a devil's advocate argument that, well, our company helped lay the pipes, we helped drill and connect the fiber, so that was our expense. Why shouldn't we be allowed to at least control the data and information that goes through those pipes?
Yeah, there definitely is an argument there, and there is something to it, right? If the companies that build these things are regulated so much that they can't really do anything to help differentiate against one another. They can't compete against one another and have really good competition, which could happen if you have it could be a byproduct of net neutrality, then they aren't incented to invest, right, to make faster internet. And you certainly could argue in the US, for example, that what has been the biggest factor in moving the open and free internet and the faster internet forward has not been net neutrality regulation, but it's been Google Fiber, Google making an investment, and so having greater competition in broadband. Competition is what makes a free market work. And so the argument sometimes is that you need a free market, and let's just leave this to a free market and not over-regulate it, which because regulations are slow and have a hard time catching up with the reality of the market. But the problem is you actually need to have good competition. And if you have good competition, then the consumers demand, like, hey, I don't want you to choose, which, who gets a fast lane and who doesn't. And I'm going to choose the ISP that doesn't do that. Then the consumer, the market has a chance to decide. And so that's the biggest argument, both for and against this, in net neutrality, is that net neutrality is like the market, free market is great if there's real choice. But in a lot of markets, there isn't a real choice. Things like Google Fiber are encouraging and have helped drive down the price and drive up the speeds, but it's not everywhere. And as you and I both know, living in markets that don't have suffered from lack of competition at times, that lack of competition definitely hurts consumers.
Well, it's a fascinating topic, and it's one that we'll continue to talk about on Tech Republic. Jason, what are the best resources available on Tech Republic and Tech Pro Research?
Yes, so we have a Smart Person's Guide on Tech Republic, Smart Person's Guide, what we sometimes call a cheat sheet to net neutrality. You can access that. And across Tech Republic, ZDNet, and CNET, we have a lot of stories. We've covered this from every angle. And so to read more, to dig deeper, you can read that and then follow Tech Republic's Top Story of the Day newsletter to follow the latest on net neutrality and all of the latest and most important topics in tech.